I do not fear death. I fear only that my rage will fade over time. Now, this was our introduction into the character that is Kurapika. It's quite a fascinating introduction because it's one that stays relevant throughout the course of the long and rich story of Hunter x Hunter, and in particular, 4 words within that passage. First of all, his connection towards it when he refers to himself in I. Second of all, the length and duration of time that this encapsulates within, when he talks about time. And the most important ones, revenge, and the link the revenge has to fear. He says, I fear that my revenge will fade over time. And now, what is so spectacular about this writing is that in essence, it shows us, the reader, that Kurapika has always been aware on the trajectory that he is heading down on. Now, it's quite a very, very popular trope to have a character that's falling into a dark pit, right? Whether it be for addiction, whether it be for revenge, whether it be for abuse, or whether it be through falling too much in love. There is a very, very popular theme in storytelling where a character gradually loses themselves. And very often, the conclusion towards that story arc is for the character to realize how far gone they are and what truly matters towards themselves. And what's so interesting and unique about Kurapika is he's very self-aware of it. He already knows the answers, how he can escape from it. He's aware he has friends he can make. He knows all the answers. He has everything he needs to bring himself the happiness he craves in life. And yet, he chooses not to capitalize on it. In fact, the things that I find very interesting are how much Kurapika's sense of self and his sense of time coincide within the revenge and the fear that comes with it. We see that at the start, Kurapika is a bit more naive, right? He has this very clear goal of, I'm going to kill the Phantom Troop and avenge the Kurta clan. But at the same time, there is still an element of curiosity within the world of Hunter x Hunter. We learn throughout Chapter 0 that Kurapika and Pyro had wanted to be the hunter through the Hunterpedia book, where they were following the character of Dawn in his adventures. So there's still that inherent want towards being this hunter, towards being someone with a sense of honor and dignity that can protect things that really matter. In the end, Kurapika is still a child. He hadn't fully formed when he left the Kurta village. He was in the process of trying to figure out who he is before the Kurta clan massacre. So the really interesting thing we have is we've got a bit of Kurapika's childhood and his forming process happening, coinciding with the story. And the really fascinating thing for me as an avid reader when I go back is seeing the difference between Kurapika later on in the story and Kurapika at the start. The Kurapika during the Hunter exams would have definitely gone to visit Gon. In the end, he had changed so much that he knew that the closer he got to Gon, Leorio, Killua, the more further he would have gotten from his actual goal, being total and exact revenge, getting the clan's pride back, restoring their honor by finding their eyes, and killing everyone involved within, not only killing the actual Kurta clan, but within the sales and everything to do with the abuse of his fallen clan members. And that to him is more important than Gon. Gon is in the hospital and he is about to die. He is in a critical condition. And Kurapika doesn't go to visit him. He doesn't answer any calls by Leorio. Instead, we see him in a dark room. Actually, it's very intriguing because, there's lots of Catholic themes. He's in a very church-like ceremony where there's all the Kurta eyes in front of him. And he's thinking, I'm almost there. My goal has completely, come into view, where beforehand, he was so far away, it very much was a pipe dream. And it shows us very much that the concept of time, which I mentioned earlier, really does coincide with everything to do with himself, because now he's actually there it invokes different parts and different emotions of him that he didn't have activated in him beforehand. And to go on and to explain the revenge, to explain the fear, the pain, the self-esteem, we need to talk about Kurapika's childhood. So here we go. Kurapika was born with a natural curiosity. He very much had a very Gon-like main character air about him. He was very rebellious. He didn't form much of his own personality or much of himself because he was so focused on trying to escape this mental prison he felt like he was put in. So in the end, for his naivety, Pyro got hurt. Pyro got hurt so much that Pyro lost his vision, and Pyro was very weak, and he felt culpable for that. There was a sense of guilt that just ate Kurapika up. And it's through that Kurapika initially gets this feeling of loyalty towards the Kurta clan, which comes throughout Pyro, as Pyro is someone that he hadn't realized how much Pyro was the antithesis to complete his character until Pyro sacrificed himself to literally save Kurapika. Kurapika's life in that moment became indebted and connected to that of Pyro's. So as he left the Kurta village and he came back towards Pyro's dead body along with everyone he had ever known, Kurapika just collapsed. He went from having started to figure out who he could be, which is this person with a pure, just philanthropic aspect towards himself. Someone that wants to nurture and wants to really enjoy the fonder things in life. He just went towards what he knew would be effective. Kurapika has a very, very smart mind. He's a very intellectual character. Even in the initial wants, though naive, it was true. He was held in this mental prison. So he developed a strategy. He needed to be a hunter, to kill the Phantom Troop members, to get his eyes back and to complete his goal. And whilst that's the case, the entire time, he knew that this wasn't going to get him anywhere. And this is why Kurapika carries himself with this air of honor, with dignity. We see at the start of the hunter exams, he tells Leorio, doing things for money, that's dishonorable. I'm doing this because I want to be a hunter that can actually protect the things that need protected. He's very much filled with a duty. When he sees the prison inmate, which has a spider tattoo, and he beats him with a punch, he sees his outs and he's thinking, I'm not going to go past what I'm willing to do from what I believe in my moral compass is right, just to get this, which would help my objective. And we see that start to change as he is confronted, as he's there in York New City, having joined the Nostrad family, and he's got his, binoculars, and he can see Yvogin. The spider tattoo comes out, and he loses it. This is the onion that gets unwrapped of Kurapika. In that moment, Kurapika had a choice to make. He consented to losing control. It's in that moment that he starts to dip his toes into the darkness. He beats Uvogin. He mercilessly kills him whilst screaming in agony, whilst begging Uvogin for answers. He says, I hate this, whilst beating Uvogin. And in the end, he is there, left unsatisfied. Yet, in a true representative of who he is, he still decides to bury Uvogin and show him that respect of dignity that he has within himself. But it's later on where he realizes in York New that his friends are his weakness. There's a very interesting quote from Naruto in the Itachi Pursuit arc where Orochimaru says to Sasuke, if you don't become heartless, you'll never beat Itachi. And that really does feel like the antithesis of the realization that the conclusion of York New had for Kurapika. In the end, Kurapika chose to save his friends. He chose to save Gon and Killua over getting that revenge. He had him right there. Crollo was at his mercy. And it's in that moment that he saw that whilst for himself, it's very fulfilling and he really enjoys being with these people, it's actually taking him away from his goal, because When push comes to shove, he needs to lose a bit of himself to get rid of them and to go after the spider. So he separates from the group, right? He goes and he joins the Nostrad family, but to a much further extent. He goes all the way in and he climbs up the rankings. And in that process, he gets into some very, very dark paths, all to collect the Kurta eyes. And when we see him at the start of the Succession War, he is not at all the same Kurapika we once knew. He threatens to kill Mizai, and in that moment, we see the darkness that has enveloped him. That was the thing that was so beautiful about Kurapika, is the soft facial features, the soft blonde hair, the kind, soft-spoken way that he talked, the nonchalant aspect about him. And now, he is all business. He is a teenager that's been forced to grow into a man, and yet it looks like this is it. Kurapika has completely fallen, and we get this very, very beautiful panel. This panel where, of course, in the Succession War, in exchange for getting his goal of the rest of the Kurta, he's been hired as now a new member of the Zodiacs to participate and protect Prince Wobble. And Prince Wobble is this baby, this innocence that he himself has left behind. And in this manga panel, we see Kurapika look at Prince Wobble, and we see a glimpse of a smile, a softness in his face. And that just shows us that Kurapika is fully aware. He's not fully gone. He's choosing to lose himself completely at his own free will. And that's what separates Kurapika from many other characters that follow similar arcs. And that's what makes him, in my opinion, the best character for this particular character arc that I've seen before play out in different stories. So, I've really tackled the time points and how it's personally connected to Kurapika, but the two more important points are that of fear and that of revenge. Now, Kurapika is absolutely terrified. He hates blood. He hates being someone that's dishonorable. And yet, we see that he is more and more willing, almost eager to get to it. He is proactively trying to stop things from happening instead of reacting as he was before. And this is because his heart is starting to turn. Whilst he's still got the consciousness and the awareness about him to still be able to come back to the light, he has fallen so much that he's become desensitized. He doesn't really care much when he sees Leorio again. He just says, yeah, Leorio, he does view me in a positive manner. He is all business. There's very little care for human emotions. We see that when he sees people on the Black Whale 1 that have died, of course, from the unknown murderer, he is completely, he just doesn't care, to be quite frank. There is a sense of, this is not the good heart that we once saw through him. And that's linked to the fear. And what I mean by that is that his fear is that he won't reach his goal. And the closer he gets to his goal, the crazy and crazier that fear gets. The fear is so overwhelming that he starts to even question himself and what he's doing. He is completely overwhelmed, pushing himself to the limit, using Emperor Time over and over again, just trying to force his means of reality into existence. And he fails. Each time he forces through, he's too weak. He's not good enough. There's a scene during when Gon and Killua are in Heaven's Arena, happening at the exact same time is Kurapika, where he has found himself a teacher for Nen, and he falls on the ground, angry and disappointed in himself, saying, I need the power to fight alone. And that's what it is that Kurapika is scared of someone messing up on his behalf. So he's put himself on the brunt of the responsibility, and he's forced himself into being someone greater than he actually is, and being that disconnect between reality and his form of what needs to become reality is what makes him fall. And he falls a lot, but yet his hatred is what keeps him going. We see the hatred he has increase over time as he's able to see a clear path towards his goals. Beforehand, he was able to ignore it, but now it's become so abrupt that we have this panel of Kurapika where he says to himself, I don't know what I've become or really where I'm going. I wish you were here, Pyro. This is, a rough, translation of what he was saying. And that was a very, very interesting moment because it gave us an introspective into Kurapika's depressive period, because he knows that once he gets this goal, there's nothing for him. His life is essentially over. He's given up on himself towards his goal, and his goal is one that doesn't actually mean anything. And he's starting to figure that out, but he is too stubborn. He is too far along, which links back to the time period, that he can't just turn back now. He is stuck on this way of going, and he is so ashamed of what he's become, but he doesn't want to be close to the people that view him in a positive manner. He'd rather distance himself, do all the dirty work, and then perhaps, do something very important for the world and die an honorable death. In Japan, the sense of honor and one's pride in clans, we see in the ninjas, right, in Japan. We saw that in folklore, there was many different tribes and aspects all within the Japanese ecosystem, as Hunter x Hunter is, based, it's a mangaka that comes from Japan, so it's very much based on the Japanese folklore. And to them, a sense of individuality is much less respected as it is here in the Western world and many other places and cultures. It's very much about your family name, your heritage, where you come from. It's honoring that which birthed you. And Kurapika, in his quest, is essentially dishonoring the Kurta clan. And it's this very, very hard compromise he needs to make but refuses to. He has to get them back, whatever the cost, even if it means tainting their reputation. He's willing to throw it all in the sides with his suicidal, absolute maniac mentality to get the Phantom Troop, to get the eyes, no matter what. It makes him such a scary character because he's intelligent, he has a will stronger than any other in the series, and he has the means, the character depth, and the backbone to actually get it done. And I think that overall, this is what the antithesis of Kurapika's character arc is someone that's lost themselves, but is actively refusing a way out of that problem. And we're seeing sort of the breakdown of Kurapika, and we're seeing sort of a character study on what it means to have a responsibility, or in other words, a burden too heavy to carry, but a will too strong to let out. And it's a very, very unique case, right? I'm only able to touch upon the surface because there's just so many layers that even when I look at it from this perspective, there's just so much we can't see, and there's so much that Togashi's going to expand further upon towards Kurapika. So now that I've covered this main central points, I want to cover some other few interesting things that I really like about Kurapika's character, because this has been, sort of a bit of a dark video, and I kind of do want to lighten the mood a bit. So one thing I really like about Kurapika is just his sense of loyalty, right? Kurapika, throughout all of this, he is very aware of what people are doing for him and what he's done for others. And whilst, yes, on the other side, you can mirror that and say the fact he is so aware and he's being so actively distant from those that sacrificed their lives for him, such as Gon, is very, very almost bad of him. It's almost like an evil act he is taking part in. But at the same time, I find it very charming that he's always someone that's got a sense of reason. Kurapika is someone that has a very great sense of self-awareness. He understands where he is alongside his colleagues, alongside those that he interacts with, and he's able to maneuver himself in ways to where he is not causing people problems. I find that very considerate because it means that he's learned his lesson. Beforehand, this was the complete opposite. Kurapika was really all over the place. He was making trouble. He was a bit of a troublemaker back in the Kurta village. And he had learned from Pyro and from Pyro's nurturing, where Pyro really acted for Kurapika a bit like a big brother. He learned the importance of care and gentleness. And I really love that, as it's portrayed not just in himself and his personality, and all the interactions he has, such as when he went to the Zodiac family estates, where he very much took a back seat and followed Gon, trying to help him out as best he could, whilst Leorio tried to force things more his way. I think is very, very emblematic in his character design, right? He's got a very, a very soft cape. He's got very soft, hair, eyes. There's something very soft about all his facial expressions, about the way he talks, about the way that he just goes about things, right? There's a lot of reflection, a lot of pauses. He's always looking around to see what other people are doing. And I find it's a very, very, very charming thing about him. And it's the tragedy of his character arc, because he is a lovely, lovely guy. Kurapika is the type of person that you'd want to have as a shoulder to lean on. And it's very good, because even though he's fallen as much as he has, he still has his sense of self. And that helps him maneuver through situations that seem unbearable. The first time we saw this was actually in the filler. We saw this in the 1999 filler arc in Hunter x Hunter, where it's the sort of stage 2.5 of the Hunter exam, and they're all on this ship. And you see Kurapika managing all this stress that seems overwhelming. But in the manga canon contents, we see this right now during the Succession War, where he's balancing everything on his plate, taking on the role of a leader. And we see he's constantly taking those leader roles, because he is someone that's got the maturity, the responsibility, and the awareness to take and view people as they are, and to view what someone is missing, someone is wanting. And it's really the marks of a great leader. And it's something it's going to be very, very interesting to see how much of that gets lost over time. So far, it's stayed intact. But I think that's very much being portrayed to us with Togashi as his personality beforehand. Whilst this is more so his character, right? His personality has changed when he got confronted with the spider in Yorknew. And I wonder if his character will change when he gets confronted with Cyrenik in the Succession War. So that's something to definitely look out for. I'll probably make another video on Kurapika just from a different angle, but this is my character analysis of him. And if you enjoyed, I recommend leaving a like, perhaps subscribing if you love Hunter x Hunter. This is my favorite thing in the world, so I'll always be here doing Hunter x Hunter videos. I hope you've all had an absolutely incredible day. I wish you all the best, and yeah, this is Hadrigon. Peace out.